Recording in progress.
All set.
Okay, and we're back to open session, still July 25th, 2023, still the Select Board of Wenham. Here is Gary Cheeseman, Deirdre Parati,
Peter Clay. Ben Timon.
Diane Bucco. I just started hearing things, sorry, I know your names. So we're gonna start with public input. If anybody in the audience, there's no one in person here in this rain, but is anyone on the Zoom that's interested in speaking? No one's put their hand. Does Roger have his hand up, or is that just the cursor?
He doesn't.
Okay. All right. Shall we move on? Oh, Rick has his hand up.
Rick does.
Go ahead, Rick.
Hi, I just wanted to ask if you could give a little bit more time. I literally just got let in, so I don't know if there are other people on the call that, I just heard the last call for comment, but thank you. That's my only comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody that would like to speak? I see none. You see none? We can move. Reports and announcements. Steve.
Yep. So I got a few things for you tonight. So the during the budget cycle last year for FY24, we budgeted to electrify the staff shed down at Pleasant Pond. So that has just been completed. Mike Hardy coordinated and facilitated the installation of the service and getting it powered up by National Grid, and Fire handled Verizon and getting the fiber optic line down there, and that all hooked up and live. So we're good. We didn't have good communications down there due to cell service issues, and so things are all good
So
now.
we have Wi-Fi there too?
As far as I know, yeah.
Wow.
State of the art.
Yes.
And so it was recently brought to our attention, I know we've talked to it before, but we didn't even realize that the town hall doesn't have an AED. It's one of those devices that can resuscitate you if you have a heart attack. I'm not sure what the acronym stands for, but so we're purchasing one of those, and we're also coordinating, we're looking at a couple dates towards the end of August, early September for the CPR training for all town hall staff. And so I think that's important. So once we'll get the AED in here, staff will learn how to use it. So if there's ever issues with, the public that comes in here, any health issues or anything like that, we'll be able to respond, and also for, for staff too. Wanted to bring up, so you heard an update, I believe it was the last meeting, about the iron rail study. So and Joe sent out an email to this effect, so you may have already received it or already know about it, but on August 16th at 6 o'clock, we're planning a multi-board meeting with the consultant. It will be hybrid, so to encourage better attendance. It'll also be open to the public as well. And the consultant has, some discussion questions, some initial findings to facilitate some discussion and kind of get some feedback from. Right now, who we have invited as boards is the Planning Board, Iron Rail Committee, Open Space, Concom, Select Board, and FinCom as kind of like the land use inputs from the community, as well as the financial advisors, being the Finance Committee. And, hopefully just get everybody in the same room or Zoom, and, one point may trigger someone else to have another concern, or, just gather some input as we're kind of really building out exactly how we're going to go about this. And they have some good ideas, and the consultant has some good ideas, and we'll kind of run the discussion. So that should be good to get everybody in a room and see what's going on. Deirdre Parati reached out to me last week to see if Sally Kearns had mentioned that there's a refugee crisis in Danvers, and she was concerned about it, was wondering if we could do anything as a town to help. So I did reach out to Danvers, and the town manager was very appreciative, although he said that they have a long history of situations like this. They're well equipped to handle it. The state has stepped up and is doing the right thing by them. And then in the grand scheme of things, they do have about 25 families, but it's much smaller than where they were a couple of years ago when they had all the families in like the Denny's motel and things like that. So he's like, much appreciated, but at this point they have it under control. We're busy internally with the staffing turnover. What's that?
Is your computer mic on or something?
Let me see this.
Is it, go to the microphone thing?
Should fix it. Let me know if you hear any more feedback. So like I said, the staffing turnover that we discussed last week, so we've contracted with it was formerly Lanson and Heath, and now it's Mercom Auditing. And so basically just coordinating with IT to get them and their IT to get their remote login and set up to get access to our network drives, putting together work plans for finance as they enter the audit season, and JB's last day is tomorrow. Kind of coordinating the existing staff in the two offices, be public safety and finance office, who's going to serve as various points of contact for different issues and different processes, and then just trying to minimize any disruptions that we have to the public and any internal operations. Additionally, we had a request for an update about the financial policy and operational review. So, I know just from various discussions with individual select board members that they have been reviewing the documents. I have asked the chair to hold off on placing anything on the agenda until I've had a chance to write a comprehensive policy manual that includes any existing written policy that Wenham has, any existing practice that they've abided by over the past few years, and also industry best practice and citations for where those practices come from. My plan was to have it ready for you by now, but with the unexpected turnover, things have been pushed back by a couple weeks. So I'm still hoping to have it to you before the end of the summer, but it's not going to happen in the month of July.
Okay.
And that feedback?
We're all
I
right.
think so. Do you hear something?
Yeah, it's a little ringing. Usually there's a mic on it or a speaker on the computer.
I still hear it.
I'm assuming it has nothing to do with the owl. That's,
I don't know, is that put up sound?
Oh.
I don't know.
I still hear something, but I don't know what it is.
Anyways, so that's all I have for updates for you tonight.
Any questions?
No.
I don't actually have any updates myself. Sorry.
I'll do
Anybody else?
one.
All right.
I'll do
Pete.
one. There's a North Shore Water Resilience Task Force meeting on August 2nd at 1 p.m. I have the information, Michelle has the information, Steve has the information, and Joe has the information.
August 2nd. What day of the week is that?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I think it's a Wednesday.
Okay. Usually in the morning, right?
It's at 1 p.m.
1 p.m.
It's a Zoomer.
Okay. Super. Anybody else have any interesting points? No? Deirdre?
I just mentioned that last week on Wednesday, July 19th, we had a Master Plan Advisory Committee meeting, and hopefully the recording is posted. But we had a great presentation by Dan Hodge from Cambridge Econometrics on the economic development study that he's been doing for us and the tool he's been helping to create. So I just encourage people who are interested to take a look at that presentation. It's very interesting and very useful.
Okay. Was it a good turnout at the meeting?
It was mostly the committee.
The committee.
But For that, it was yes.
Good. Ben, anything?
No.
All right. Moving on, no correspondence. Here we are, new business. We're right on time. Somehow that amazing. Status update and details on town hall treasures. A research project by Bob Hicks and Diana Lang. There's no G on her name. But Bob can't make it, but I think Gary has a report.
Yeah, so Bob sends his request to appear at a future meeting to cover that, but I know they have inventoried the entire set of artifacts in Town Hall and have storylines on the first 10 that he'll present 1 or 2 in, and I think the plan is to hopefully get them into the Wenhamite and on the town website maybe once a month or whatever. A new one will be highlighted.
They sent us some
Yes.
in the
so you see-
emails. Pretty amazing. So they just wander around town hall and found stuff and researched?
Yeah,
Like
they've
this table?
cataloged everything that's on the wall or in drawers, and
And they went did they go to the vault?
there's more to go.
Downstairs
still,
in the
yeah.
vault? Okay.
So they've done the first 30 inventory and working up the storylines in them.
That's awesome. That is great. That's right up Diana's alley. She loves that stuff. We get to do some reading, public reading of potential goals and objectives to be discussed on Friday.
So are these online?
We are sharing this as we receive them.
All right, so just for background to the public, this was discussed at the last agenda. The board was going to submit to me their ideas and topics for discussion at this week's workshop on Friday morning at 9 a.m. Open meeting law requires that the public receive the information at the same time that the board does, and the board can review them, take a moment, to review them, and then discuss amongst themselves. So Michelle is posting it on the website as we speak, so if anybody at home wants to review while the board is reviewing, feel free to click on the link right next to the packet and review with us.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
Rick has his hand up. I don't know if you want to acknowledge.
In a minute. I'm going to finish reading first. give me the heads up when you guys think you're ready.
I am.
Gary, you good?
Yep.
Pete? Rick, I think that we saw your hand up. Do you have something to add in?
No, I'm sorry, that was a mistake. I apologize. I just hit the wrong button. I apologize.
Okay, no problem. Okay, so I thought these were awesome lists, very similar, I think. A lot of things were similar. Our goal is to have, what, we say 5 to discuss on Friday? Is that what we said? Or am I making that up too?
Not sure if we put a number on it.
We might not have put a number on it.
5 sounds good.
Well, I think, yeah, because things are going to come up, and some of these things are going to come to the surface quicker than others, but I don't know how to start now. I mean, I could,
Can I offer?
yes,
So-
you can.
So Steve sent this out,
Yeah,
right? Which is all the stuff that got done, that's done, and then stuff that's going on, and then a whole bunch of suggestions in terms of projects to consider, which cover a lot of the same areas.
Similar, yeah.
With maybe the exception of what Gary said about going after the big things in the budgeting process.
Yep.
But everything else is in there. So website refresh, are you guys all on the same page I'm on?
Yep. New projects to consider.
Yep.
Yep. In Steve's memo.
Website, yeah. That's-
Yeah, website.
Pleasant Pond operational study, not really sure, but I think there's some other things that are down here that are emphatic. Expanded green initiatives, yes. New review and negotiate regional school district agreement, which is something you brought up, Gary. Yes. Adoption of formal budget process through dedicated budgetary software. I think you mentioned that, Deirdre. I think Gary mentioned that. Have some real software.
Yeah,
Yes.
we do.
Trash collection alternatives analysis. Oh, my God. We lost the loose leaf
Loose leaf pickup.
because of the held hostage by the traffic, the trash collection alternative. So, yes. Not really sure about the opt-out insurance incentive analysis, but the form, visions, values, mission, I would wait for the master plan to be completed because there's a lot of that stuff in there.
okay.
And all board and committee charge review and updates, again, I think it's wait for the master plan to be completed. Would you agree, Deirdre?
I guess I could look at it both ways. There's some merit in sort of doing that ahead of the master plan finishing. So that's,
Well, if we have some egregious sort of misalignments, maybe we should ask those committees to go back and take a look.
My experience has been on, what I had listed on this is committees, have been added on historically. Their charges have been one-off, and that I would see that the first step would just to review the committee charges to standardize the positions of chairman responsibility, vice chairman, secretary, and treasurer. Because, if you read through the whole list of all of them, there's no two alike.
Right.
Because they're all put together in different years. And frankly, I think a chairman coming into a committee can legitimately say, well, what am I supposed to do here? Because there's no guidance at all. So I think that step needs to be done up front. Perhaps the second step of a review of what committees we need to add or change does follow on at the end of the master planning process.
Right. Okay. The IT upgrades, that's obviously a yes.
The what? I'm sorry.
A yes.
On the,
The last one you had, 11. And then the only thing that we need to deal with this water issue more directly. or be more committed to doing it. Because right now, it's, God bless Eric Mansfield. But we have all these things that we know we can't do. Like Bolte at Gordon, we don't have the water. The MBTA, if we build all those things, we don't have the water, nor do we have the waste treatment either.
Yeah, those are some big items.
And then the other thing is how do we focus everything so that our residents realize that living in Wenham is worth it? Because it's impossible for commercial to impact our taxes significantly, and we really don't want to increase our residential density beyond the MBTA. So at some point, we need to kind of figure that one out.
Okay.
Instead of everybody bitching and moaning about our taxes, which they have a very legitimate reason to bitch and moan about.
It is a great place to live. Why is it a great place to live? Well, we have lots of places to go, but there's no signage. That came up in the master plan. We have lots of wonderful resources here, and there's a lot of good reasons to live here, but sometimes you don't see that because we don't really promote it. It's over years, it's just become, it's Wenham. Of course, it's great to live here, but as taxes rise, you need to promote the good stuff too. So maybe that's part of that's what I felt was coming out of the master plan in dribs and drabs.
Me too.
Yeah.
I have, I guess, first of all, a procedural question, because I remember watching last year's goal-setting workshop, and there was sort of a long list of things that got churned through. So I guess I'm wondering where the 5 comes through. I'm also a little confused, because I know I've heard Steve say part of this is goal-setting for town hall staff, but I think, isn't it also goal-setting for what the select board is going to focus on?
Yes.
And we're not actually solving everything on Friday, correct? We're sort of talking through and whittling the list down to what we want our focus areas to be.
Yes.
So I'm not sure.
So I guess I came out with the 5, but I think my goal would be, because there's a lot of overlap, but there's a lot of topics, and then within each topic, there's lots of subtopics. But I think if you try to do too much, then you can't really get anything done. So I guess now is time to kind of put together a good-sized list, and then on Friday go, all right, what are we actually going to work on, and what is the action plan for these things? So I brought up 5, just thinking,
Right.
that was just me, but that's just a general.
'Cause I guess I would like to see like a prioritization exercise, right? So that if it's 5, we'll use that for now.
Even if we have 20, if we prioritize, we only might get to the top 5,
Exactly,
right?
and we might say these need to move to next year, but that's so we don't lose the thread also from year
Every
to
year, yeah.
Right.
Because I'm not seeing yet like continuity from last year, and of course, we've had a change in town administrator, it was a different town administrator, but now, we want to try to establish some continuity
Yeah, that's a good idea.
and a pathway forward more than just, okay, let's sort of do these 4 things or whatever.
Try to do those things,
Try
yeah.
to do those things.
Yes, I agree with what Deirdre just said. I think that we're going to have 3 hours on Friday, and if we can get through that 3 hours, having prioritized 3 or 5 subject matters that we intend to make priorities for the board, then we'll have accomplished a lot, because 3 hours is going to go quickly. So just by way of example from Steve's excellent memo of things, that we should be thinking about coming up, and I agree with most of what you said, Peter, about, the importance of various things. But taking like the renegotiation of the regional school district agreement, obviously on Friday we shouldn't spend a minute on any of the substance of that, but only deciding whether it is among the top 5 priorities for the next year that we need to then spend more time with.
Just on that, if I could jump in, we can't open it.
Right.
So
Right.
we can say, yeah, that would be great,
Yes,
But it's not
right.
going to be on our priority list until the schools say, let's
Right.
do it. Right, so
Yep.
it kind of been like just hanging there waiting. It's
Right.
been years.
And then some other things that are more granular, like, opt-out insurance incentive, some of the IT specific things. Like, again, we shouldn't be getting too granular, in my opinion, on Friday at the retreat, but figuring out where do some of those granular items fit under a larger umbrella of a subject matter, and what are the top subject matters. So, for example, the website, I think there's a consensus for those of you who have been working with the website a lot longer than I have, but in what we put forward in these goals, that it needs an upgrade, but it should, in my opinion, it should be under the umbrella of a overall communications plan. And that, in my view, should be one of probably the top 5 subject matters, is a
Communication.
communications plan.
Yep.
And then under that would be website.
Social media.
Right.
Would IT go into that? That's where I can't figure out. Is that on my list? I don't know where IT
Yeah,
goes.
that's a good question. Maybe, IT infrastructure might be something different.
Something different.
Potentially.
Yep.
But I think that's probably what we should, between tonight and Friday, we should just be able to, at least try to organize and prioritize what we're talking about.
So I took what you guys have said and what I was reading, and I came up with my 5 topics, which is communication, includes website, social media, and within town hall, with the residents, just like a grand plan. Expanded green initiatives, which includes maybe adding some new committees,
Or a person,
or
at a minimum.
did you have that? That could also include the trash, but maybe not. Board and committee research, I think, is important. Just to go through it, list all the committees. What's all the committees' charges? They should all be there. They're there somewhere. They're in the town meeting reports, or they're in the bylaws, whatever. And then an onboarding document that's general, which I think usually comes out of the town clerk's office. There's one there on how you do a meeting, what's open meeting law, how to run a meeting, et cetera, et cetera. HR definitely needs to be something. I think that's a huge department that we don't have. And then IT, those were my things.
Well, we're going to talk about this on Friday, right?
Yep, but I was just trying to, so if we could just take this and then take all the ones that Deirdre put under there and the ones these, and just make a longer.
Slot them.
What? Say it again?
Sort of
Slot them.
slotting them
Yeah.
within those categories right.
Did I miss anything?
Well, I guess I would want to take Steve's list, our lists, and sort of combine, so to smooth the overlap, so that there then is one list that we can then prioritize, and it may be that those 5 are some
Right.
of the clear ones that rise to the top, but there's an aggregated list.
The one I would add to your list would be a budget process.
So I had a funny sense on that. Can you write budget?
Yeah.
I wrote a note that I thought that would be more of a town administrator finance decision on, as far as how to go forward with the budget. Is that something we decide? I don't know where we fit in on the budget.
It's a fair question. I think you certainly would have input, but I guess to the extent you want to task, well, me, because I'm the administrator at this point, but with operations, do you know what I mean? Kind of judge it more on the result and outcome instead of kind of defining the process and provide feedback. But I'm certainly open. I have some ideas that we've made changes, that there'll be significant changes already this year. Happy to discuss whether now or next Friday to see what you think about that. I would love to get to the point where we're utilizing something like a ClearGov just for the the establishment of the buy-in to the budget process that they provide, and to ensure that things don't fall apart in any turnover. So if the administrator was to leave, the finance director was to leave, you've kind of bought into this software and this process, which is a good process, and it gets you the GFOA, a GFOA award-winning budget document that for submission, and you can't really change it. So you can't be like, well, I'm a new administrator and I want to see things this way. And so I'm a new finance director and I've always done the budget in my other communities like this. So every 2 or 3 years you have this turning of the way things get done. And, I think that there's certainly some value I see in just solidifying a process that's somewhat automated.
It's somewhat, but all it needs is a new administrator or a new finance director to go, yeah, I don't want to pay for that one anymore. Let's go use
true.
blah, blah, blah. So it can
that's
still
true.
change.
But then,
But it's,
yeah, no,
you
and
don't
that's
lose
absolutely
things as
true.
much.
But if you're keeping up with best practice, which is, I think, what Steve is talking about, because we've had a few conversations on FinCom over the past year, feedback on the budget process and talking about what could be different. It would not be great for someone new to come in and say, well, I'm not going to follow best practice. I'm going to ditch this and, go back to my Excel spreadsheet. Like, then we probably have some questionable hiring decisions.
Right, okay. Point well taken, yeah. So,
Communications, green, boards and committees, HR, IT, and budget.
and then under those, we can
Yeah, branch
take the
out.
stuff from yours, take the stuff from these,
I think
kind of
that's
put
going to
that all
consume
together.
3 hours easily.
Definitely.
Because we're going to,
Do what?
yeah.
So should we go back and do that exercise on our own, and then send them to Steve so that he can consolidate them, and maybe send them back to us before we actually show up?
I mean, that's actually a fair idea if you want to. I mean, I know the timing is short, but if everyone wanted to take a stab at categorizing it, sending it to me, and then the ones that everyone categorized as the same thing, I'll put them in one document, and then I'll say, here's the outliers where Diane thought this was communications and Gary thought it was IT. You know what I mean? Not that right or wrong, it's just, then we can discuss and see where.
So we're taking out of all these, putting it all together, and we're gonna send it to you, and you're gonna
And I will,
merge them
yep,
Within those 6 categories?
yeah, I mean,
within any
I'm not sure
category.
it's going to fit exactly into those 6. I
Yeah.
think there's going
Right.
to
you
be
can have some
others.
miscellaneous
Right.
Right.
category, I don't know.
Well, for example, Deirdre's last topic area, community engagement strategies, which I agree ought to be in the mix for discussion, that probably fits pretty neatly within communications plan. It also may fit within board and committee, sort of, we have it as research, but board and
Yep.
committee revitalization, engagement, public understanding, however you want to put it. So that's just one thought as far as how community engagement maybe would fit within, or as part of a couple of the topics that we've mentioned already.
So then what we do on Friday, so now we're 5 people as opposed to 3 people. So I feel like in the past, what we did is like, these are the things we really want to work on, and then we kind of threw it to the town administrator's office, and then they worked it through, and we got to work on it a little bit. But if we're 5 and we find that someone feels very strongly about X, Y, or Z, perhaps people can say, you know what, I want to work on this, and this is my action plan, working with the town administrator or whatever. Wouldn't that be part of the Friday's meeting?
Yeah, next steps coming out.
I think so.
Yeah, like, instead of just saying these are the things we want to do, here you go, we should actually kind of
Yeah.
jump in and
Take some ownership.
take some ownership and make some action plans.
Yeah, and I don't know whether it's this meeting or maybe, like I said, 3 hours can go quick. Whether we need to have another, but ultimately I would, for myself, I would like to be able to have, a few goals that be like, all right, Steve, these are our top 2 or 3 things that, we really want you to get done over the next year. So next year, when we're talking about my performance, I can say, a year ago from now, you said you wanted X, Y, and Z done. And, here's our measurable, our measurables and our targets, and they were all completed, or they're 90%, whatever it is, just so I can kind of quantify the performance as well. And then, obviously, if anyone else wants to help or take initiative, or, that's fine too.
So if on Friday, more or less the full list of each of the topics, ideas that are in what we've submitted and what you've put in your memo, if each of those things minus overlap has been roughly put into one of these categories, then on Friday would we be just starting by talking about, okay, here are the things under each category that already have been submitted as comments or granular projects or ideas or what have you. And then we would probably add to things. So we would say, okay, communications plan and community engagement, here are the 7 things that have already been submitted, but what else, right? So we would try to build out what
Or
it
how.
is, or how.
Right?
I
So,
think,
yeah.
Right, but there may be other,
The what's and the how and who,
right,
yeah,
but also some what's, because there may be things that we
yes.
haven't talked about it already, but when we get to communications, like, okay, well, we need to think about this and this and this, and just sort of building out.
Because I think when you talk,
Yeah.
then more things become aware.
Right.
Yeah.
We should probably try to, without, being too regimented, probably try to allocate a certain amount of time to each
Okay.
topic, given that we have 3 hours, right?
Yep.
Because then we might run out of time on.
Yeah, otherwise
5 and 6.
yeah, that's true. I don't know how to exactly do that, but.
Yeah.
We just put a clock on it. It's like,
Was it 5 topics divided by
5, 6 top.
180
like that
Yeah.
game before.
minutes?
180 minutes divided by 6. Quick math there.
There you go, 30 minutes each.
There you go. That wasn't too hard, even for a non-math guy like myself. 30 minutes.
Okay,
All right, should we move on?
so we will get all this to you as soon as possible,
Okay.
right? And see what happens from that. All right. Awesome. Thank you guys for that. Thank you for the discussion and making a plan for the goal setting. Discussion, we already did see, we discussed and selected items, basically to be put on an agenda. Oh, so does the agenda have to have all the items? Or is it going to be, can it be,
That's a really good
it's
point.
7:28, not
I
6:28?
will add, I will make the agenda the 5, 6,
Sub-
4 categories.
Like general categories,
Yeah,
right?
Yep.
And then we'll all, okay. Because it probably should say something like that, yeah. And the workshop will be, as a convenience on HWCAM and Zoom, or just
I think we're just gonna,
use the owl?
I was thinking just the owl,
The
but
owl.
we have HW Cam here. Right, what do you guys think? The owl for kind of more intimate.
We're good.
Yeah, usually, my experience, workshops were more.
Yeah.
Okay.
formal.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank
Okay.
you. Update on the request from the Select Board to the Town Administrator on petitioning the state to add the on-demand pedestrian crossing light where Burnham Road meets 97. That was from Jeff Calder, and I think Rich reached out
Yeah.
to the state.
Yeah, Rich reached out to the project manager who was running that program for the state. So what the state did in this particular program, it was a resurfacing program that we got into, and it was not, essentially that wasn't part of the purview of the program. Route 97, although it is a numbered road, is not owned by the state. That is the town of Wenham Road. That's our responsibility. So it is not something that the state will come out and do, as if it was, you may have a chance to convince them to come out for safety reasons to do something crossing 1A, where they do have ownership of that road. But Route 97 is a Wenham Road, so it would be us, if we were looking to get it, well, really, two ways we could accomplish it. And both result in us doing the work, but one would be to budget for it at some sort of capital improvement during this year's budget cycle. The other way is to keep our eye open at the state. They sometimes have safety-related grants that comes out that this could qualify for something like that. And, just kind of keep our eye out for the next year or two and, see if something like that pops up. In which case, in either case would be, DPW would be coordinating and doing the work. They did do one, Rich said when he first started, and the cost was about $20,000. But that one had, what do you say, it was solar powered. I forget, it had a couple different elements that made it a little bit more complex than what would go in down there. So take that for what it's worth,
So the
maybe
one that,
17.
you're talking about the one on Arbor that he did?
Yeah, I think the Arbor sounds right. And so he was saying if we do go the route of Arbor and Edel, does that sound right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, right, so he was saying that there's some other ones in town that he can think of off the top of his head that could benefit from the similar technology that we're discussing on Route 97. So, you know, whether it's a project that we start to pursue certain safety grants as they come available, or try to budget for it during the capital process, but it doesn't look like it's going to be a situation where we can get the state out to do it for us.
And what was the cost? What was the general cost for the Arbor
About
one? You said 20,000.
About 20,000.
20,000. What do you think we should do?
Go for the grants and then budget for the following year.
So not deal with it, the budget's is for FY '25, which is the next budget, right?
Yeah, we can look for grants. There may not be anything that exists currently.
Right.
So I guess we'll start looking, keeping our eye open, and then
Right.
we'll earmark some funds maybe in
And put it
the
into
capital
the-
process, and then see how far it makes through the, you know, through the various boards and committees that kind of prioritize.
That sounds reasonable to me. Should, see if there's grant money available now, but realize there may not be till the next cycle.
Yeah, I
Same.
agree with what Steve said.
Can you,
But we're going to put it into FY '25 as a backup plan, or?
I'll put it on the capital
Yeah.
plan, and it doesn't mean, it doesn't mean it's gonna make it to town meeting, but at least we'll be carrying something there, so if for some miraculous reason we have extra money to spend, we know where we can put it.
and just, because I'm just wondering, we can't do like a fundraiser for that. People can't, that's not something the town can do, I don't think.
I don't,
Just,
really see why not. I mean, you probably could
If that-
when they do
if that community
fundraisers
wanted it.
for
Because
anything
essentially we
else.
did that with the sidewalks, right?
Yeah.
we did the sidewalks, yeah. Just an idea. Do we want to discuss it, or no? Just go? I guess it would depend on the petitioner, who would add, the
So let's
community.
go with the grant route first.
Grant route first, of
And
course.
then put an FY '25 budget as a
Capital.
backup.
And if
and then,
anyone chooses to want to bring it to us and do something about it.
Right.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Discussion regarding the Sean Davis Memorial for 40-plus years of service for the DPW. Well,
This picture did it for me.
I didn't get to see that one yet. That just came in.
Maintenance garage. I loved it.
Who put that together?
That's Rich's,
Oh, Rich just did that with
what's the Photoshop?
Photoshop. So,
I thought that was a great idea.
Yeah, so I don't know if you saw the email in the packet from DJ Janey. He had he kind of gave a better background, history of him at the park than I could have. He's I think he's the owner or part owner of DPG Landscape LLC, and he really wants to. We see his letter, and I met with him at the Friday, the luncheon that they had for Sean Davis down at Pingree Park, and he was there, so I was able to talk to him, and he just really wants to. He's like, carpentry is not my forte. He goes, but I'd love to at least put a couple screws in or whatever. So Rich has said, he's happy to get the sign made up. Either he'll have his guys build the sign, and then the landscape company will come in and hang the sign for us. Just kind of make it a nice thing. I mean, he was, from what Rich has told me, he took the position over in 2007 and just kind of made it what it is today. He's been there and started with the town in like 1980, 1981. So
Amazing.
So the sign is a little bit different than I think what was originally mentioned, which was like a bench or something like that.
Yeah, so that's what he just was throwing out an
Or a
idea.
field.
Yeah,
That's
so-
never gonna
I don't
happen.
think we could do that, no.
So I told him, I said, well, we've been talking internally about this shed here, and he was like, yeah, he goes, whatever. He goes, I'd just love to be involved and help in whatever you can do, so I'll coordinate with him. If that's something you guys think you want to do.
Thoughts on that? Pete, you like that, right?
I did. As soon as I saw it, I was like, that's great.
I agree. I mean, I think that proposal is be a nice tribute.
So I have no problem with the request or this proposal, but I guess my one point would be sort of the fairness question. And, he's not the only person, I would imagine, has some longevity with the town. So how are we fair for everyone?
I think
who
he's
sort of-
probably the only one with 40 years, though.
Is he?
Yeah, we thought about that too, but I think he's the only one. Maybe, again, it's up to you guys, but maybe cross that bridge if you get another 43.
That's where he lived.
What's that?
That's where he spent a lot of time in.
That's where he worked
That's
out
where
of.
he worked.
That was his main, yeah. So my thought was similar to that, and just like, is this opening up something for wonderful employees? But I guess you're right. People don't really stay in one position for that period of time, at least not anymore.
I mean, there's a precedent being set, but I feel like it's rare,
It's a rare thing.
so.
So in some sense,
Consider.
we're sort of backing into a policy that 40 years is a threshold, right? Is that
Yeah,
sort of what we're saying?
I'm okay with 40 years. I think, yeah, that's
Me too.
a lot of dedication. Paul Weaver was the moderator for how long? He might have been the moderator for 40 years, 40-something years.
It's a
28 or whatever. But that was that's, a little bit different, that we're talking
It is
employee
different.
versus,
Yeah.
public service.
full-time.
Okay, full-time, right. All right. Does anyone want to make a motion?
I move that we rename the Pingree Field or Pingree Park Maintenance Garage to the Sean Davis Maintenance Garage. And we will have, it's DLG,
DPG, I think.
DPG Landscape help us with getting that made and hung.
Perfect.
Second.
If I could just amend that in honor of the 40 years of service. Right, so,
Yep.
yeah. And we seconded?
Second?
Discussion? Shall we vote? Gary?
Yes.
Deirdre?
Yes.
Ben?
Yes.
Pete?
Yes.
Diane, of course. That's great. That was really good. Thank you very much. What is DPG's name?
DJ.
DJ. Great idea. Thank you very much. And I see that there's even the original letter
Yeah,
from
the
Bill
original,
Tyak.
right, yep.
Yeah,
That
was
we gave,
something.
that's really nice. We should make sure Bill Tyak is aware of this. If anyone's still in touch with Bill.
I think Rich is, so I'll
Okay.
let him know.
Yeah, he should let him know.
Give him a shot.
That's great. Okay, here we go. Steve, discussion on alternative ways for the packet distribution at a meeting. You mean you don't like making these copies?
Well, no, it's not that we mind, it's just that it's sometimes, especially now at 5, we average like between 80 and 120. This one's small, but between 80 and 120 pages, and it's just a lot of paper. So I didn't know if, even if laptops, iPads, not that we can't print it, but I didn't know if there was maybe some conversation, or if maybe you don't like the idea at all, and you want to just have it printed,
iPads.
which is fine.
Because originally, when we started, I was supposed to get an iPad, but I already had one.
Yeah, we got two, right?
You should have 3 iPads up there.
Oh, we know of 2.
Yeah, at least 2.
Yeah, at least we have at least 2 that are up there.
Did you,
Folks
you
have
never took an
turned
iPad?
No, I always had the laptop.
Because Catherine, John, and Jack each had iPads. Catherine kept hers. I had mine. I gave that one back, so we're just missing one. But does it matter if it's an iPad, or are we just doing our own?
No, we can get town-owned devices, and we don't have to make a decision tonight. I just thought I'd throw it out there, just for the sake of, we talk about green initiatives and things like that.
Yeah, I thought,
So, yeah, I don't like iPads myself. but laptops would be great. But we wanted to have some sort of electronic devices, I think, going forward at some of the offices too, for people to be able to log into whenever we start code red and stuff like that, right? Or, we should have a laptop, someone can check their voter registration over there, or is there a laptop in the assessor so people can check their, is there a computer there? I don't think there is.
No, but we are, so we're, as part of ARPA and part of just the existing IT budget, we're actively replacing a majority of the machines in the building. And with that, we will have some machines, all of them are out of their replacement cycle, but some are still in good working
Doable.
order. Those could be repurposed for terminal type use, because then you're not running a lot of applications and forgetting on the web, you just go on
Right,
the web
right,
or
right.
whatever. So I think that'd be a good use for those, because they're existing, and then the heavier processing and day-to-day work will be done on the newer machines. And we do, like I said, we have 2 or 3 iPads. We could get 1 or 2 more if that's the preference, whatever.
I could
Well, we
use.
can still print. We're just
Right,
throwing
no,
it out there.
we could use our personal stuff, but it's probably better that we don't, right? In general, so,
I like the iPad idea. I'm happy to print my own stuff as well, which I've been doing for not the whole packet necessarily, but anything that I wanted to mark up or what have you. So I certainly don't need hard copies printed for me, and the iPad would be an excellent idea. I think I'd personally prefer that over, using my own laptop just to keep it separate, and the laptop also becomes a little bit unwieldy at the table and maybe a little bit of a shield, for the
Nothing wrong with that.
public. Strategically utilized, I suppose.
just that goes this high.
Yeah.
Is it you?
So I like the iPad idea myself.
Okay.
All right.
I
iPad?
do as well. And maybe just have one packet printed that's physically here, so if a device isn't working or we need to flip to something quickly, we can just grab it.
Perfect.
Gary, you're good with that?
I'm good still.
All right. Do we need a vote? We don't need a vote for that.
No.
No, we're just going to move that way. Oh, the CPA grant agreement.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of words in here. Thoughts on this? I'm going to just open it up to anyone who would like to speak on this one.
So before we get started, I'll just highlight the Wenham Museum really has ultimately just one request, well, 2 requests for change. I know there's some concern around the public access and kind of building that out, not concern, but kind of tightening up that clause. And they just asked that there would be some sort of verbiage in there that would give them allowance, and I came up with this number because I wanted it to be a lot more than they usually do in a year, but that they can close it for ticketed events and fundraisers for up to 12 events per year. So usually they're at night, usually it's a couple hours, no more than 12 events, and she said that, I think really it's like 3 or 4 is the reality.
So where is that?
There's no page numbers, but it's page 2.
It's on the second page,
Yes.
number 2?
Section
Okay.
C. I just didn't quite understand that sentence, so that's helpful, but I think I would,
Yeah, it wasn't really sent, it was more a request.
Okay.
We can figure out how we want to,
Okay.
if you
I
guys
was
are
like,
okay
what?
with
I
it.
don't know what that means.
And then the other one was, they want permission, I don't think that this really, I think it's kind of implied that they want specific permission, or one of the board members wanted permission, that if they didn't get funding for whatever reason or weren't reimbursed, that they had the right to continue the project with their own funding.
Yeah.
And I thought that
That's
was,
reasonable.
yeah.
Yeah.
Just on that paragraph 3C on the second page. So one minor concern that I had is in the second sentence where it says grantee, which is the museum, agrees to make the open spaces of the property generally available to the public at such times and for periods as the grantee, again, the museum, may set forth in its rules or regulations. So my concern was just that maybe we tighten it up to, first of all, insert the phrase free of charge someplace, because I think that the intent anyway is that it be open to the public free of charge. So that potentially could be added after
After public.
public. So grantee agrees to make the open spaces of the property generally available to the public free of charge. And then my concern about at such times and for periods as the grantee may set forth in its rules or regulations, which I worried gave the museum a little bit more discretion than maybe at least I was comfortable with. That seems to be addressed, Steve, maybe by what you just talked about in terms of a cap of 12.
Yeah, so, yeah, and I was thinking you
It's
could
a
put
year.
it, so after you go, so at such times for periods, the grantee may set forth the rules or regulations, comma, it says, which includes the right to prohibit public access during such times the property undergoing renovations or other work done to the property, then maybe comma, ticketed events up to 12 ticketed events per year,
Or not more
comma,
than.
provided that public access is permitted, or actually maybe just towards
Right.
the end.
Which includes the right to prohibit public access during such times as the property is undergoing renovation or other work is being done to the property, and no more than 12 closed ticketed events a year, and then the rest of the stuff.
I think so, yeah. I think there's probably some need to maybe add some semicolons and that sort of thing. I don't know if we want to do that right now or if we,
No, I think
Yeah.
I can work on adding
Yeah.
it, and then we can vote on it next
okay.
meeting if you want.
And what else did you guys find?
I had a few
Yep.
much more, minor things. So page, where did it go? On the first page, second to last paragraph, I think it's a typo, where it says 87,255 by vote under Article 916. I think it was Article 16. I think the 9 is a typo.
Right.
Then on the first, second, third, fourth page, indemnification, paragraph 14. So it breaks out 5 different categories of indemnification. A is any injury or person or property resulting from the work, which is referring to the construction work. B, the quality of the work. C, grantee's performance of the work. So those all have to do with, like, as it's being constructed, which makes sense. But then C continues to say, or the negligence or misconduct of grantee or grantee's agents, employees, contractors, and invitees, which I think is important to have in an indemnification clause like this, but it seems to be kind of lumped in with construction work as C. So I would recommend that a semicolon be put after the word work in C, and then a separate category would be the negligence or misconduct of grantee or grantee's agents, employees, contractors, and invitees. So that's just separate. It's not tied to construction work.
Is it a
It's
separate
to-
letter? So you're
I
adding,
think it would be
so that would be D.
Yeah, I think actually it should probably be E, because D continues to talk
Right.
about contractors and work. So I think D should be the same, but that second part of C should become E,
And then E
And then-
would become F.
and then E would become F, which is a separate subject. So that's just a suggestion to kind of,
What else you got?
I thought in 15, where it says that there'll be a sign that says project funded in part by community preservation funds. I thought maybe adding Town of Wenham Community Preservation Funds, because I'm not sure that everybody looking at that would know,
I was thinking Wenham too, yeah.
that community preservation funds were public funds necessarily.
Community preservation funds of the town of Wenham, from the town of Wenham.
Something like that, yeah.
Or Wenham Community Preservation.
Or Wenham, yeah. And then, I didn't note this before, but is it funded in part, or is it funded in full?
In part.
It is, okay. Because there was a change to one of the recitals on the first page that talked about,
Yeah, so the
project.
So that was a typo on the first page, and the project cost, everything that they applied for is the full project cost. But they do have other fundraisers that they're gonna be doing, and there could be stuff that
They may add.
they're adding, like a wooden train that you can play on. They are raising money through selling some bricks and then some other things to
They're
fund that.
moving all the bricks, too.
What's that?
They're moving all the bricks,
Yeah,
too.
moving to, yeah, so there's gonna be a few other things that are here that's part of this area that isn't on this project, and that's their funding separately.
But so there'll be one sign that looks like it's everything, but CPC is
Yeah.
only
I
paying
mean,
for
based
certain
on
pieces of it.
the conversation, it was pretty minimal. It was some like bricks with engravings of donors.
Yep.
A
And the
play
train.
on train. That's really actually all she.
And the sign's temporary, just during the construction
Yep.
period, right?
Anything
Really?
else?
I didn't have anything else that I saw.
All right.
If anybody else did.
I didn't read it that well.
I look at a lot of these kinds
I
of
know you do.
contracts.
Everyone's got their strengths.
Never would have known.
Do we feel comfortable voting on this with these changes, or do you want to see it again?
It sounds like Steve's going to give it to us again to vote on. I think
Yeah, I can
Okay,
do that.
we can bring it back.
Yeah, I'd make the
Perfect.
amendments and then just vote on the final.
Good plan. Good plan. That's not mine. Lost my agenda. There we go. Well, that brings us to old business. The investment policy statements.
So I made what I believe was the requested changes based on last meeting, with one exception. Talking with Belinda, she was hesitant on doing I believe we said the first select board meeting in August and the first select board meeting in February
Right.
initially. To give her a little bit of flexibility, we put the first 2 months after January 1st and the first 2 months after July 1st. So basically,
Once
it gives
within
some
the 2 months.
flexibility within the 2 months after the fiscal year close and within 2 months after the calendar year close.
Once within 2 months of July 1st, so that's July and August. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically extends it out to the end of July and the end of February. But we can still target the first, it's just we wanted some
A
flexibility.
little flexibility.
That's good. It
Those are good.
achieves specificity, but still maintains flexibility. Good.
With that all said, were there any other things that anyone saw that they did not like? Pete?
No, I thought it was
Oh, I
exactly
thought you
what
raised
we're
your
talking
hand.
about.
Okay.
So I guess my only comment is these investment policies are outside of my area of expertise. This is not something that I know much at all about. So I think I wanted to suggest that we include the FinCom because they're a finance and advisory committee, and they actually have people who are experts in investments and this type of financial management and so forth, and I just feel like having their input would be useful. It's certainly not my expertise. So I had the comment about reporting, but that's sort of the extent to what I can contribute.
Fine with that.
Send it over there, have them for the next meeting, then bring it back?
Then just have them comment on it.
Just have them comment on it.
In an advisory capacity.
Advisory
Yeah.
capacity. Are we on a deadline on this investment policy to vote on?
Not really. I mean, the OPEB is unique in that it's the treasurer collector is the trustee of those funds. So essentially, it's already implemented, and we kind of went back and forth to come up with an agreeable addition, so that once the select board is done, I guess once the finance committee comes back, assuming they don't have any changes, and the select board's comfortable with what's there, then, she's agreed to then sign and update her records. The investment policy, however, for the general fund is a select board statement. And, you can pretty much say whatever you want in there. As far as process, obviously, that's why we hire Bartholomew, is because they're, essentially the experts in the municipal field and do pretty much every community in the state. And this is their suggested investment statements. Or these are.
So, more thoughts, keeping more people involved and stuff is always a nice idea. Are we, sometimes you can't ever get anywhere because you have too many cooks in the kitchen. Is that part of the FinCom's purview as far as a committee?
That would be,
Has not been in the past.
Has not been in the past.
if you look at the bylaws, it's pretty,
That's not what the FinCom does.
no, but they can't, they can't, I don't want to say no, but if you look at the bylaws and you look at their charge.
Well, I read what they have on the website and in the bylaws. So that's where I hesitate.
Personally, I think what it says in the bylaws doesn't preclude them from offering advice in financial matters, particularly at the request of the select board. And what I would hope to see is more sort of collaboration between the boards and committees, and that's also what I'm trying to accomplish, is that we're working together. Not that this should go to every board and committee, but where we have a board that has specific expertise, why aren't we asking them what they think? That's the rationale.
I think I would feel like I would benefit from getting their feedback. That maybe that they have very little feedback and would defer to the consultant that put it together. But I don't on balance see that personally that there's any harm to asking them, and there may be some benefit. They may have some good suggestions.
You already said yeah.
Well, I'm
Oh.
just thinking about what Steve said. I mean, Bartholomew, they are the experts in this, period. That's why we hired them.
Right.
And if this isn't precisely within the FinCom's charter, then I'd say no. I flipped.
You flipped. Gary.
Well, I think the bigger question is, as we said, Friday we need to talk about boards and committees and look at all the charges. So this is one minor detail in here, but as a practical matter, the going to the FinCom now, we know we have some particularly expert people that happen to have that expertise with this current FinCom makeup. So maybe we can just unofficially ask for their opinion and get it back, and then look at the bigger questions later on as to how the charges should be written.
So it seems like it's we've got the advice of the consultant. We read through it. It looks good to us. Can't hurt to ask them. Are they in meeting process yet? The FinCom?
No, I could coordinate a meeting. I could coordinate a meeting with them.
So and there's no rush, right? It's just still going to be old business. So
Yeah, I'd like to get it done
We'd like to
before
get-
budget cycle
before
starts,
budget cycle.
to put it to bed.
I don't know. I think we need a motion to send. We need a motion to send it to them. Yes.
Yeah, I
think
think
it
this
would
is
be
one of those
good.
ones it's a
What?
kind of a toss-up whether you need a vote or not, but it's always good to just.
Yeah, I think it would be
I move that we accept the
investment policies.
investment policy as presented today.
I don't know if we're going to get a
Different
second on
motion.
that. Anyone want to second that?
What'd I miss?
Can you amend
Well,
it?
because, the suggestion is to just get another opinion from the Finance Committee who have expertise in this area. So if we move to accept it, then that precludes asking their advice.
Are we actually going to change what we're doing? And I'm serious when I
because
ask that
that-
question.
That is the point too, you know. FinCom comes back with a yes or no. Is that going to change anything against Bartholomew's recommendation here?
And I'm
We won't
gonna say-
know
Yeah.
until we get the feedback.
Right, so, I mean,
from the
I
FinCom.
think we're just going to ask them to read it. Do you like, do you guys see anything that's different, or do you have any questions? I mean, we want to bring this to an end, so we don't want to.
Right,
We don't want to
yes.
go back to Bartholomew and say, you know, Tom Thumb said we should check out this. I mean, this is what we have. We just want to get their feedback on it and then take a vote. Right? I know, you want to get it done. I see that too, because I like being able to do a check, you know,
Because I
completed.
just literally asked the question, if they recommend a change,
What are we going to do?
what are we going to do?
Well, but that's the thing, we don't know. I mean, it could be that a member of the FinCom flags something really important. I mean, hopefully not. I'm sure Bartholomew, is very good, but it's possible that someone on the FinCom says, oh, wait a minute, this conflicts with something else, or did you give this some thought? It could be.
Ben, the odds of that? What are the odds of that?
Well, you're asking the wrong person, because
Yeah.
like Deirdre, the basis of my knowledge for an investment policy is about the same as the basis of my knowledge to perform brain surgery, which is nil. So
Yeah, likewise.
So I don't, I feel like I would benefit from some smart people on the FinCom who may have this expertise and who are available to us, and in an advisory capacity. Maybe that they don't want to do it. I don't know, but
Here's the point I'm going to make. It's not, these people, some of your ex-colleagues on the FinCom, there are investment advisors. It's not because they're actually part of the FinCom.
What do you mean?
They happen to be, we get a couple people there that are very shrewd investors. And they have a lot of information about that,
Who are members of the FinCom? You're
who
saying?
just happen to be members of the FinCom.
Okay. Right. So wouldn't we want to tap their expertise?
Well, should we then go find out who else knows is smart as hell in this area in the town and ask them what they think too?
No, because they didn't step up to serve.
But we have a finance committee with specific expertise, right? So it's sort of like the best-case scenario. Your finance committee are experts in this field. So I guess I just have a hard time seeing why we're not asking them. I mean, as far as I know, none of the five of us have done this for our careers, and they have. I mean, you may have particular expertise, but
So
we don't. I
the benefit
couldn't
is just
see-
having, so Bartholomew is the educated consultants that are giving us their best thoughts and everything that we should do. The FinCom could look at it with everyone has their own personal experiences, looking at it from the town of Wenham's point of view. So
I'll let somebody else make a motion.
I think ideally, if it doesn't take too long, hopefully there would be nothing crazy. Hopefully there would be nothing crazy.
Yes.
But I guess it can't hurt to ask them to look at it and review it and give us their thoughts. So Pete doesn't want to make a motion. Anybody else?
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we ask the Finance Committee within their next two meetings to review the current draft of the Bartholomew investment policy. Policies for any red flags, and to provide any advice that they have to the select board through the town administrator.
Second.
Have a second? Any more discussion? Vote?
Yes.
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 Yes. All right, let's call on our FinCom. Very good, thank you very much. Light board policy.
Last page.
I'm sorry, I didn't get a chance. This was a late entry, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was still drying off, so if I could just have a second, I'll read through it quickly.
Pretty much what we discussed.
Ooh. School district events? Did we say that one?
I put that in there because I assumed it would be okay, but if that's not, then we can.
I don't know, kind of, do you know how many events there are?
Well, I just, if they, well, I mean, if not as like a primary, but if they asked us, like, do we, I guess, well, it's a good question. If the school was doing something and was like, can you put this on your board?
So if the
Really trying
sports
to get the
teams are
word
going to tournament?
Yeah. I know that's a fair
Or
question. I
the
kind of
debate
thought yes,
club,
but
or-
now I'm thinking maybe,
I don't know, that's shot out at me. Let's think about it. Yeah, that's really the only one that kind of hits me.
Good, sorry.
No, it's okay. I mean, I think I'd be fine with the school district, but maybe say something like priority school district or high level or some term that's significant.
Yeah,
Right,
significant
that
school district
elevates
events.
it. So it's not every
Okay,
everything.
significant is a good word.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay,
Major or something.
I'm better with that. Because there was Patton Park Movies was on there the other week.
yeah. And I mean, I don't know if you guys noticed, but the lottery was also on there. Eric
Oh,
Mansfield,
it
who
was.
runs the,
Oh, the affordable housing?
he manages the board. And I didn't know this, but evidently he'll go through social media, and if there's nobody on the queue for like a time slot,
He'll throw something up
he'll
there.
throw something up there.
Just to use it, yeah.
So that, even though we said we're gonna hold off, it was still up there anyway, so, over the weekend.
I did think I
I
saw that.
just
It's
found,
funny, was like,
I just found that out.
And
We
I
were
know that-
talking, and he said he put it up there, so I'm like, really? It's like, oh, well, too late now.
And I saw that the Patton, military service event was on there, which would fit within the townwide events sort of category. I think it talks about townwide events, celebrations, gatherings, which was a great event, by the way. I went to a portion of that, and it was really, really well done. I hadn't been to prior ones.
Did it rain?
It rained for parts of it. I went after it rained.
Okay.
Yeah, the state police mounted show was very good,
Oh,
but
boy.
it was in the rain shower the whole time.
Oh,
So the horses came off the field going,
Yes.
what was that all about? But yeah, very good show, and I think they had pretty good attendance, and certainly there's a lot of participants that show up to help out with that.
Yeah. The state police canine demonstration was very popular. So they,
Was it good?
Kids like the dogs. And
yeah, they simulated various scenarios of when a canine might be put to use in a situation. Yeah.
Did
because
they wear, like,
Hamilton just got a dog, a police dog. Sorry, totally off topic. So back to the light.
So do we need a motion on this?
So I move that we accept the 7/25/2023 draft of the light board policy with the change of adding significant in front of school district events.
Second?
Any discussion? Vote. Gary?
Yes.
Deirdre?
Yes.
Ben?
Yes.
Pete?
Yes.
Diane? Yes.
And I move that we adjourn the July 25th, 2023 Select Board at 8:11 PM.
Second?
Discussion. Sorry. Next meetings. Friday, 7/28.
9
At
a.m.
9 a.m. We're going to have an executive session and a goal setting.
Yep.
Okay. After that, our meetings are August what?
8.
August 8th
And
And
22.
and 8/22. Nothing else on the agenda that we know of. Perfect. Okay, I guess we can take a vote now. Anyone else have anything to add before we adjourn? And the vote. Gary?
Yes.
Deirdre?
Yes.
Ben?
Yes.
Pete?
Yep.
Diane? Good night. Yes. Well done. Talk about